It's working. So we still have a couple of more minutes. Did you all enjoy the Top Kit so far? Oh, thank
I
you.
am. I've been having a really nice time. I really enjoyed the student panel today. There's been great things every day, but yeah, that was great.
Yeah, there were definitely multiple good sessions. I'm glad that they are all recorded, so I will definitely spend some time going back to see some of those recordings. I missed the keynote too, so I heard it was really good. So we have one more minute. It's raining here in Orlando. What is the weather like in the other parts of Florida?
I'm in South Florida in Davie, Florida. I don't know if you're familiar. It's like Fort Lauderdale basically, and it's also raining here.
It's cloudy in Leesburg. I don't know about north, south, east, west, but definitely cloudy. I thought it was going to rain, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yes, I think it stopped raining now. It is cloudy outside.
Yeah. We were sad because the clouds kept us from seeing the launch very well yesterday. We could see it,
Oh,
but
no.
not, the clouds kind of cut it off. Yeah. So I was like, ah, that's okay. That's
Yeah,
all
it
right.
was cloudy last night, yesterday. We were worried that we couldn't see it, but
Yeah.
after the first try, it was launched. That was surprising.
Yeah. Yeah. The pause helped. Absolutely.
Okay, so right now it's in 2:40. So our speaker today is Melissa Packwood, and then her
Yes.
presentation is Teaching the Hidden Curriculum, Practical Strategies for Integrating Executive Function Coaching into Instruction. So it's all yours, Melissa.
Thanks. Well, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. I really like that this workshop allows us to kind of take part of the day, maybe not the whole day, to kind of check in and get some new skills and strategies. I thought it was a really cool conference workshop session, so I was excited to be a part of it. You may or may not know me. That's okay. I've been around for quite a while doing EF coaching. I've got children on the spectrum, so their challenges are near and dear to my heart, as our first gen student challenges, which tend to be executive functioning challenges. But I have been around. I did get a PhD in psychology and have an MS in reading and literacy and a grad cert in ESE. Today, our goal, time hopefully will allow us to do this, but our goal is to apply an executive function scaffolding framework to help us identify and possibly revise some lessons. Again, time allowing. We also want to identify existing design barriers and look for opportunities to improve student task initiation, pacing, and persistence so that they can build those skills through our classes and then take those skills with them into those higher level classes and the workplace. Um, Ideally, we'll get to everything and have some tools at the end to support us in our curriculum design to make things a little easier. Even though we're still in the driver's seat, wouldn't it be great to have some tools to help it be easier to build that scaffolding in? I did utilize some QR codes. Let me see if I can move some of this around. I'm not sure how great they'll work on the screen, but this leads you to the the course audit form that I created, as well as to an outline of what we're going to talk about today. So feel free to take a snapshot of that and then tap it. It should bring up a website for you, either on OneDrive or Google. It was a little glitchy for me when I tried it this week. One would work and the other one wouldn't, or vice versa. So you may want to sign into your Google or OneDrive first and then click that link. And if you need me to go back to that at some point, just let me know. Okay, so you may have heard of executive functioning before, but I wanted to review what it is. Executive functioning are those cognitive processes that help us to do everything: learning, planning a schedule, starting a task, completing a task, keeping our wits about us when something tough happens or the schedule gets changed. And this can be very difficult for everybody at some point in life, and we don't really develop it until we're closer to our early to mid 20s. Until then, we're just kind of working on the skills and it's not fully developed. One of the big things about EF is that it can develop in everybody a little differently, depending on our life experiences and what kind of supports and examples we had. What kind of practice we had can also affect that. But we also have to keep in mind that, for example, working memory is something that's tough for me. Well, that's okay. There's some strategies and skills that I can use to help me with my memory challenges. Just the same as with inhibition control, there may be some sensory tools or breaks people can take, or just reducing the cognitive load so that it's in steps. We don't necessarily want to lessen the rigor of our courses. I mean, we're higher education professionals or perhaps K to 12 professionals. We do have learning goals that students need to get to be workplace ready. But if we can lessen the cognitive load and take some of the challenge of the planning stage out or scaffold it, it's going to help also with behaviors and mood regulation. So it's a really handy thing to work on EF as a tool to help us in our course our course development. Here's why executive functioning matters when we are thinking about the design of our courses. Um, One of the things that has been happening is that instead of students showing what they know, they're getting stuck on the process of showing what they know. So they may be stuck with planning and not know how to plan out their day or week to get those tasks done. They might struggle with what to do first or second, or get stuck on, say, an introduction for an essay, whereas they could go ahead and start with the body and go back to the introduction and conclusion at the end if that works better. So there's a lot of things in EF that if we remove those barriers or scaffold and teach them as we go, students will be stronger and more able to show us what they know. Another big one is self-monitoring. I have noticed that a lot of students, even in college, will they will lose time, right? That's a very common thing with ADHD or just being developmentally delayed and maybe not have your time and planning supported yet. It can be tough to self-monitor and figure out what to do, when to do it, and how to prioritize. So these are things that we can support them in learning. So the populations that this can be most helpful for are neurodiverse learners, first-gen students who maybe haven't had a chance to build these skills super strong yet, and just overwhelmed students in general. Again, we don't develop fully in executive functioning until our mid-20s. And unfortunately, we do tend to decline in our 40s to 50s if we're not practicing these skills. So there's this very short window where we can be very strong in EF, and I think it's really great if we can make use of that and support our students as they go through our courses. One of the things that I do like to focus on is that these are barriers to showing what students know and barriers to the curriculum. It doesn't mean that we do everything for them, of course, but if we can kind of meet them where they are and then start building without putting too much more work on ourselves, it's going to build a stronger student. So, one of the reasons that EF can be a challenge in curriculum is because we assume a lot of things, right? I don't know who else feels this way, but when I first started educating at Beacon College as an instructor, I had some assumptions about what students should already be able to do. Or what I thought they already knew. Yeah, sure. They came out of high school knowing how to start and finish an essay. They knew how to prioritize their time. They'll be fine as long as they follow the directions, but sometimes that can be a roadblock. There is what we call visible learning and then hidden skills. Visible learning is that output, that essay, that group project, that discussion in class, or that presentation. But the hidden skills of the planning, the mood regulation, um, the being able to chunk things up into steps, those are tough. If there's group work, the communication and scheduling of it, the interpersonal skills, those can be tough too. And you may have seen that in your classes as well. Unfortunately, these skills are not always taught explicitly, even in public ed and private ed K to 12. It's wonderful when they are, but I have taught in that area too. And some people are doing it, some people are not. And so, if we could kind of get a more uniform approach and more of us start embedding EF into our curriculum, I do think that we would be able to help students a little bit here. That way, they wouldn't struggle with the process of showing what they know, but rather go ahead and be able to show what they know. Again, those assumptions are sometimes there, like, oh, they should know this. I don't have any time. I only have this many days and this many weeks to teach all of this. When would I ever teach EF, right? The other thing is, hey, look, this isn't my job. I work at Beacon College in Leesburg. We only serve neurodiverse students. We're one of two colleges in the US that do that. Believe it or not, there's just two who specifically work with only neurodiverse students. Um, but it can be really easy, even here, to say, oh, no, I teach English language composition. I don't do EF coaching because here we have learning specialists, which I also do that role, who do EF coaching. But what I found is that when the instructors collaborate with us, when students are struggling, we're able to combine our efforts and support that EF. So then the question is, what can we do, right? I'm kind of talking at you here, so I want to make sure I give you some ideas and some tools as well. We want to think about what the barriers are. And it may be person to person, or it could be the whole class that is having trouble with a barrier. One of the big ones, right, is time, due dates, competing things from different classes, needing time as well, wanting to hang with friends. Another challenge can be just having training, knowing what to do. How can we help students? And then also, how do we train them to do it for themselves and be independent? And of course, then we want to have tools, because if I'm honest with you, I don't have time to rewrite a bunch of classes every single semester, right? So if I can embed some tools, or if I can utilize some tools to make that easier, that's going to help me out. I'm still the subject matter expert, but those tools can make my life a little easier as I adjust my curriculum to student needs and to scaffold for them. So if we can look at those barriers, take some time to think on them and think about what will help, then we can embed that and hopefully go towards a solution. So one of the things I've been kind of toying with is a course design framework. It's probably going to go through 100 iterations, but I figured I'd go ahead and share it here because it does break down some of that EF stuff that we kind of have to think about for students to be effective. It's got three basic ideas: progress checkpoints, transparent expectations, and predictable structure. I'll talk just briefly about it. I'm not here to do an ad about myself, but I did want to kind of talk about it because it's got the main points of what helps EF. Um, when I talk about the bottom part of the triangle here, or the pyramid, the predictable structure means that instead of having a bunch of different assignments that are novel, but can be confusing because they're so different, let's have some that are the same. maybe there's 4 types of assignments for this 16-week class instead of 16 different assignments. That takes the guesswork out of the directions and allows students to dive into the subject matter a little more deeply instead of getting stuck on the directions. It doesn't have to be the same lesson every single time or the same project every single time. We can still have variety, but let's make it predictable, and it's going to help a lot with those EF challenges. The pacing will be easier. The time management will be easier. The expectation, knowing what the teacher wants, will also be easier. We also, again, want to have those transparent expectations. That's kind of the middle of the pyramid at the moment. When we have those transparent expectations and we're super explicit about what we need them to show us so we can give them that high grade, it's going to go a lot better. I'm sure you guys already know this. I'm probably preaching to the choir. And then again, we want to have those progress checkpoints, because if we don't have progress checkpoints, it's going to be really difficult for students to pace themselves. And also, that leaves a lot of room for mistakes or not getting something done properly, where we could have stopped and rerouted the student. At the end of the day, we want them to be successful in their future jobs. How are they going to do that if there's no opportunity for feedback, right? So a lot of us will build that into our rubrics and do steps. Um, but you can see that these would help with executive functioning. Again, I don't want to dwell too long on this because we've got a lot to cover today. But you're welcome to reach out if you have questions about what that might look like, that if we don't cover it all today. One of the things that we do talk a lot about, and I'm sure that you know a lot about, is universal design for learning. When we take those concepts and add them to executive functioning, it can really help students out. Universal design for learning, just in brief, is when we share multiple means of engagement for students to utilize the content we're providing. We also provide multiple means of representation. You can listen to it, you can read it, lots of options. We also want to have multiple means of showing what you know, or action and expression. Maybe it's a Socratic seminar. Maybe it's a worksheet. Maybe it's a presentation or an infographic. We want to allow a little bit of opportunity to choose what the student is strong in when it's possible. I understand it's not always possible to have a list of options. But you can see in the graphic on the right, oh, I do apologize. Oh goodness. You know what it is? My mouse is run amok. I apologize. Let me go back here. Boy, oh boy. Thank you for your patience, by the way. Let's see. Uh, one more. There we are. All right, so when we talk about means of engagement, we're helping with things like organization, planning, and goal setting. When we talk about representation, we're talking about that working memory. We're talking about metacognition, where we think about how we learn best and what ways we need to take that info in through to be successful. Then when we get over to action and expression, that's where we're kind of thinking more about how do we start the task? How do we utilize that planning and organization in order to get that task done? And then eventually we want to take off those training wheels, right? We want to help with self-monitoring at first if the students need it through checkpoints, maybe some smaller chunked up assignments, even if they don't count for a grade, they can still provide good feedback for the next step. But we want to slowly release that to the students as they get stronger with their executive functioning. So one of the things that's available in that QR code is the course design audits. You are welcome to pull that out if you would like to. If not, that's okay. Follow along here. I wanted to give a couple examples of classes. You guys are pros, you know how this works, and you've probably seen a variety of classes depending on who you work with and where you attended school. Um, this is the first example, and I'd love to know in the comments if you are able to. See if I can pop it up because I see. There we go. Oh, good. I'm sorry, I did miss it, but you guys said that the OneDrive worked for you, so that's awesome. Thank you. All right. So I wanted to show you two examples of an English composition lesson. This one is a persuasive essay. What kind of things do you notice here that would be helpful or not helpful for somebody who has low executive functioning at the moment? Is there anything that jumps out at you as a problem or a good thing? Clearly organized. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of broken down with headings. I like that. Yeah, very helpful. Yeah, I agree. The headings help. They're bold, which I think is a great tool. If you think about color blindness, you want to be careful about color, but sometimes color coding can help, right? Yeah. Anything else that might be strong? Not a whole lot, right? It's short and sweet, but there's not a lot of detail. So that might be where there's a weakness, right? I don't know how to break things down here so much. Yeah, the topic does seem to be big. Thank you, Chris. So it's kind of a large thing, and even the materials are kind of vague, right? Chapter 6, lecture slides. Well, which lecture slides? I don't know which module we're in because I've already forgotten because my memory is not what it used to be. So you guys are right. This is kind of a weak example. It does have some good things going for it. Somebody like me who is fantastic at writing, it's like my jam, would do great. Somebody like my son who's way into coding and math would not do so well with this. He would get stuck immediately and say he didn't know what we were supposed to be doing here. Um, yes, lack of clarity, due at a time when the instructor and staff aren't likely to be available. That is a challenge, by the way. Have we noticed that? That sometimes instructors set things due for, shall we say, their convenience. Understandable, but maybe it's a Sunday night at midnight. And so now they've had Saturday and Sunday when the student may have been free to work, but nobody's there to help. That's a challenge. Carolyn said, yeah, there's no rubric. How do we even know what we're being graded on? I had a student maybe a month ago upset because an instructor gave them a 0 because they didn't present something. The problem is the rubric didn't say you had to present it, the assignment didn't say you had to present it, and you had 4 choices for how you could show what you know, and only one was a presentation. Oh boy, it was a problem. And if I'm honest, the student was right. So, what are you going to do? All right, let's move on to the next example. Thank you for your input, by the way. So I do apologize because it's all on this one slide. It's a little busy, but what is good about it? What is not so good about it? What do you think? Okay, it's a lot more specific, so that's helpful. It gives the time to complete it. There are steps, they're broken down a little more. The estimated time, that's pretty handy. I don't know that it's going to be the same for everybody, but it gives them an idea. And if they do the first assignment and they're like, oh, I needed an extra half hour, the next time they'll just add a half hour to it, right? That can be a strategy. Detailed objectives, reminders before submitting. I love that. I love providing a template and a progress checkpoint kind of list if I'm not going to do checkpoints. Sometimes I do essays and it's just a rough and a final draft, but we'll do a work day and they can work with me in that moment if they need to. I love that too. So this is a little better. It may not be perfect for your student though, so you might have to adjust, right? But if we look back at that audit tool and say later on you want to look at some of your lessons with that audit tool, it breaks it down a little further as far as like, um, do we have those progress checkpoints? Are we supporting time management through steps or estimated time? So yeah, and then we did still keep those headings, right? Very good. Thank you guys. Now, one of the things that I did want to kind of highlight here is that AI can be a design assistant. Now, I know we all have different feelings about AI, and I'm a little conflicted if I'm honest, because I've seen it used well, and then I've seen it used just to get out of something, right? So it's a challenging thing, but for us as curriculum designers, instructors, or whatever else your role is, this can be something that helps us to um, help with our time management and allow us to expand on those details or set up a rubric quickly and then edit it as we see fit. I would never put something up that I haven't reviewed, of course. But if I have a basic rubric and I need it to come out real quick, I'm setting up a new class, I've got 2 weeks to do it, then that's a good starting place for me personally. So you can take it or leave it, your choice. But we do want to make sure we keep ourselves and our thought processes, because we are the experts, kind of front and center. And then if we use the AI tool, it's just to complement our, thoughts and our instructional design in order to make it a little easier for us. One of the cool things that I like is that it can help with timelines. It can also help with breaking down instructions. That's one of my favorites, is to use Goblin Tool, which I'm hoping to have some time to show you real quick. Of course, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of those can do it as well. I also use it a lot for checklists. If I have a closed system, meaning that I've paid for it or the school's paid for it and it's not pulling from everywhere else, I can upload my information and say, look, only use my information to make a rubric from this assignment or to make a checklist from this assignment. It's really handy if you haven't done it. You may want to try. But again, it doesn't replace expertise of faculty and instructional designers. If you wanted to take a quick screenshot, you can. These are just a few of the many options. I'm sure you're aware that there are 1,000,001 options. They come, they go. But these are some of the more reliable options. I am particular to quite a few of these, and we're going to look at a couple of examples before we're out of time. I did want to point out, though, that it can do a lot of fantastic stuff depending on which option we choose. So we're going to first start with Goblin Tool. I don't know if anybody's seen Goblin Tool. If you want to type a Y for yes in the chat box, feel free to let me know if you've played around with this or not. It is free on the web. I believe the app is $1 or 99 cents. I'm going to have it help me write a 3-page essay by breaking things into steps, okay, so that I also have estimated time. And I went ahead and did a video for this, so let's watch. You can see it's goblin.tools. You can Google search it. I apologize for my shaky cursor there. I will go to the Magic To Do option. There are other great options. There's even one that helps you formalize emails. You can make them more saucy or more annoying or more professional. It's really cool. So you can see I added a prompt in here for what the student needs to do. I've clicked it to estimate how long it will take. And now I'm going to ask it to add more steps. Look at that. Automatically more steps. You can keep them, you can delete them, your choice. Some of those steps may not really apply. And then you can go through and estimate how long it will take. It's a pretty handy tool for a real quick list, either for you to make or for the student to make if you're teaching them how to do their EF skills and how to support them a little more. Right. And then, of course, you can add your own subtasks as well, which is really cool. So you're not beholden just to their list. I kind of like that it's interactive. And one of my favorites is marking them off, because I've noticed students feel a little better about the task if they can mark off those things. It's pretty handy. All right. Any questions about Goblin Tool? I see Rosalind has used it before. Any questions about that before I hop forward? Pretty simple, right? I would encourage you, if you're interested in AI at all, to hop into goblin.tools and check out all the different things it has, because again, it's free, which I absolutely like. All right, now the next one is one I really enjoy and I kind of geek out on. Oh, Rosalind, thank you. It's easy, fun, and you like the idea of using it to help the students estimate time on task. I love that too. It's so helpful for me. It's also helpful for the student, depending on how I use it. The next one I really have gotten into personally, because you can build your own bot and it will show you how. So I didn't have to be a coder. It's called Boodlebox. There is a free version, so please don't feel like you've got to pay anybody. The only thing to really consider with free stuff that's not a walled garden, as we say, is that you don't want to put copyrighted information in there. So if it's your PowerPoint, cool. If it's a student's work, not so cool, right? That would be a copyright infringement. We don't want to do that. If it's a journal article, again, don't put it in there unless you've got permission, or it's a closed system where it would be allowed. So in this scenario, and this may be the last one we have time for, unfortunately, but in this scenario, we're trying to get a student to come up with a topic and then a beginning, middle, and end for an essay, and then, of course, a moral lesson at the end for what they learned. And I have had my students go through this. It's just a bot that leads you through with some open-ended questions. And it also provides some ideas for the person who is building the bot, things they may want to think about when they're creating those prompts. Okay. It also has some AI tools that are pretty cool. It'll help you with a syllabus, it'll help you with grants, and it uses open-ended questions. So it's not necessarily answering for you. It's more like asking you, what do you think about this? I'm just pointing out all the different wild things it does. And you can see it runs off of some different AIs, which is kind of cool. You can pick which AI you use. So I usually go over to AI tools. You see there's a ton of stuff. So not only for classes, but for other reasons, it might be helpful. But again, you don't have to use it. So I've put two bots together. One's a learning specialist bot because that's one of my roles. And then the other one was for this particular assignment because I wanted to see what would happen. So I tested it out. You can see it's going to ask some open-ended questions. If I can type, it's coming, I promise. So it says, I don't have a topic. The bot had asked if I had a topic or not. If I had a topic, it would have led me through expanding on it. If not, it would ask me to kind of nail down that topic. And you see it ask questions like, did you have a situation that was challenging, something that didn't go as planned? And then I can provide my answer. I had several students kind of want to be evasive and not answer. They were really not sure what they wanted to put there, but they chose to use this instead of thinking on their own or using ChatGPT. Those are the other two options. And eventually they nailed down a topic. It was pretty amazing because they didn't think they could. But you can see it's going through some of those. I always have typos, sorry about that. It kind of goes through and helps you to solve that issue. And I was able to give it parameters. It wasn't going to take the student in a direction I didn't want it to go in because I could put limits on it. It was really cool. All right, any questions about that since we're going to have to probably wrap up here? Now, I will do my best, hopefully by the end of the day, to upload a PDF of this into the I guess we'd call the interface into Sketch. I haven't had time yet. We're registering students, so it's been a lot of work this week and last week. However, I will try to because we did not quite have time to talk about rubric creation. And we also did not have time to talk about Notebook LM. This has been a more popular one, but just so you know, Notebook LM can create all kinds of things. You may be aware it can create a slideshow, a podcast, a video, infographic, etc. It's really cool if you need to provide some multimodal tools so students can get that info in different ways. So I am running out of time, I believe. Let me know if I'm incorrect. Is that correct? Okay. Any questions before we wrap up? I'm sure there's more happening, so I'm not the only show. Okay, perfect. Of course. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys being here. I wish we had a whole day to talk about it. We'd really geek out. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to collaborate on anything. I'm always game for looking for more options for students. Okay? Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here.
Good afternoon. Welcome back, everybody.